Hey, okay, I'm late. Yeah, I know. Doesn't happen often, but woo, here we go. All right. Tonight, we're going to just take a minute to talk about some things. I spent 4 years keeping my mouth shut when it came to politics. I was very, very, very good, and now I'm not anymore. And I made it pretty much through the pandemic, but yeah. So this is a product of the fact that so many people that I still call my friends, but who I am sad about. I love you, but I'm sad. I'm sad and I'm frustrated. And I've seen a record number of people that I know, one local Buddhist in particular, Mr. McCoy, who got on Facebook this week to do the right thing. He did the right thing, which was to finally just express views of frustration over the fact that folks aren't getting it. They're not getting it, that Black Lives Matter. And I feel like I don't want to be angry anymore. I don't want to yell at anybody. I don't want to judge other people for their views, but it's getting hard. So I, just in the natural rotation of the stories that I've been reading, that I've written over the years, two just popped up, and I didn't do them last night because I was doing Joe's memorial. Clearly not the time for this. But when people ask why people of color are upset about a Confederate flag or a monument to the Civil War, this is just way too bright. Yes, it is. There we go. Woo, thank you. Felt like I was staring into the sun. People are upset because they feel like they're losing their history. And I have to try and help people understand that's not the case here, okay? There's a difference, a massive difference between preserving our nation's history and perpetuating and propagating oppression, racism, and hatred. There's a huge difference between saying, I acknowledge your history, you have your history, there it is, let's not do it or we're doomed to repeat it. Huge difference between that, okay? And having something that basically powers up and empowers people who feel like it's okay to continue to grind down on the necks of people of color, physically and spiritually and socially and economically. So, if you want to know how that all works, here are 2 stories that I wrote. One is from 2015, July 13th, 2015. Welcome to the dog that barks as well. No flagging. The hashtag no flagging challenge dares people to tear down other people's Confederate flags. This is from July 2015. For those who find the decline in support for the Confederate battle flag to be proceeding too slowly, here's an alternative that is quick, direct, illegal, and likely to provoke rage. The No Flagging Challenge dares people to destroy privately owned Confederate battle flags displayed on people's homes and vehicles. According to the hashtag tracking site Keyhole, the tag No Flagging Challenge appeared Sunday, with the most of its activities coming from Vine. Remember Vine? About 2/3 of those posting videos are male. A similar hashtag is Confederate Takedown. It's also popular on Twitter, but the tag is mainly geared towards legally removing flags from public buildings. Emotions are running high over this issue, as evidenced by the influx of complaints and news stories. Over the weekend, Wallington, Connecticut police were dispatched following reports of a flea market merchant selling Nazi and Confederate memorabilia. No arrests were made because no laws were broken. The items were being sold on private property by Military Specialties, Inc., which sells historical military objects, including those produced by the Third Reich and reproductions of the Confederacy. The no flag challenge may have been sparked by the act of civil disobedience demonstrated by Bree Newsom of Charlotte, North Carolina, who climbed a flagpole to remove the Confederate battle flag at a Confederate monument in front of the State House in Columbia, South Carolina last month, and turned it into a nationwide assault on the flags flying on personal property. But Heidi Berich, who directs the intelligence project for the Southern Poverty Law Center, is quick to make a distinction between Ms. Newsom's actions and those seeking to destroy private property. This is not civil disobedience because you're attacking a person and their stuff and not the government, she says in an interview. Ms. Barrick speculates that these new stunts may have been triggered by the pro-Confederate battle flag rally held over the weekend in Ocala, Florida, attracting thousands of supporters and their flags. This angry thing in Ocala and this tear down the flag thing show us just how awful our racial conversation is. The people are going to lengths that they're going to be in your face, whether it's taking the flag down or shoving it in a black neighbor's face. Our language around race, our situation around race has gotten so much worse, she says. We've stifled it for so long that these mean elements are just coming out. We're still fighting the Civil War, which is ridiculous. Those who fly the Confederate flag, she says, see the anti-flag movement as an out-of-control cultural cleansing campaign. It's not just about symbolic flags on state houses and courthouses. This is about attacking private property, shutting down speech, and so on. The flag on public property is one thing. It's not helping the debate when it's on private property, she said. Personal anything is out of bounds. Just don't do it. It's completely inappropriate, completely unacceptable. You may not like that flag, but you don't have any right to tear it down from someone's front yard. Just like they can't come and do it to you if they don't like the kind of flag you're displaying. You wouldn't want your rainbow flag or political sign torn down from your home. So, this was from July 13th, 2015. July 15th, 2015. So, why did that happen in July of 2015? It could be because of what happened in June of 2015. Confederate monuments targeted by vandals. Time to rethink memorials? That's the headline from 2015. Confederate memorials are under attack, from speeches to petitions to outright vandalism. Last week, a white supremacist was charged with killing 9 innocent black men and women. This week, flags and statues associated with the Confederacy have been tried and convicted before the suspected gunman sets foot in court. Here's a familiar name. Anybody remember this one? Dylan Storm Roof is accused of opening fire inside the Emmanuel African Methodist Episcopal Church in Charleston, South Carolina, killing 9 people. Images of Mr. Roof posing with the Confederate battle flag have surfaced since the deadly attack. The fact that Confederate battle flag has remained flying in South Carolina state property at full height has resonated in and outside the state. It has led to a campaign of petitions against the flag and others like it, as well as a spate of vandalism against public monuments to the Civil War. In Mississippi, Republican House Speaker Philip Gunn is calling to remove the Confederate battle emblem from their state flag. As a Christian, I believe our state flag has become a point of offense that needs to be removed. On Tuesday, officials found the Civil War Memorial in Charleston's Battery had been spray painted with the words, Black Lives Matter. While a second historic statue in a park near Emmanuel AMC Church was also vandalized, red spray-painted letters edited the John C. Calhoun statue in Marion Square Park, changing Calhoun to Calhoun racist and slavery to the epigram. Truth, Justice, and the Constitution. Mr. Calhoun was a prominent champion of slavery in the decades leading up to the Civil War, praising white supremacy and slavery as positive and good. Vandalizing Calhoun is nothing new, say historians. The Calhoun statue was defaced so regularly in the 1880s and 90s that the statue was placed on a much higher pedestal to discourage vandals. Other monuments to the Confederate past are also facing negative attention. In Baltimore, Maryland, Black Lives Matter was spray painted in yellow on another statue honoring Confederate soldiers. In Austin, Texas, students are using a different approach to rid themselves of an unwanted memorial. Hundreds of University of Texas students have signed a petition calling for the university to remove a statue of Jefferson Davis, who was president of the Confederate States of America during the Civil War. Given Jefferson Davis's vehement support for the institution of slavery and white supremacy, we believe this statue is not in line with the university's core value, said the petition. It's times like this when the truth has to fight for its life, said Ben Jones, a former Georgia congressman and spokesman for the Sons of the Confederate Veterans, SCV, in an interview. They are painting us with a broad brush of racism, and nothing could be further from the truth. I personally fought the Ku Klux Klan many times and have very real scars to prove it. Mr. Jones refers to the call for the flag's removal and vandalism of the statues as an attempt of cultural cleansing and revisionist history. Revisionist history is not all bad, says Laura T. McCarty, big slip there, Vice President of Georgia Humanities Council. In effect, all history is revisionist history because it is put together after the fact and from a perspective, she writes. Even if you photograph or videotape an event as it happens, you don't get every possible piece of evidence to provide the complete and only account of what happened and why. Heidi Barrett, who directs the Intelligence Project in the Southern Poverty Law Center, agrees with Jones on only one point. It is vandalism, whether you support or don't support these Confederate memorials. That's not the appropriate way to deal with the backlash against racism. We shouldn't be destroying historic things, period. However, she told the Monitor, the cause of removing the Confederate battle flag from public property, not historical things, but public property, is legitimate and the right thing to do. Frankly, I would say the revisionists that exist are the pro-Confederate groups like the Sons of the Confederate Veterans, she adds. They're the ones who are trying to whitewash history of the Confederacy. But Mr. Jones disagrees. We're not whitewashing anything. We're honoring our ancestors. We're not going to feel any different about our ancestors because of these attacks. It's just going to make them feel bad and stubborn. I know that's how I'm feeling. Historian James Grossman, executive director of the American Historical Association, Washington, D.C., says in an email, remembering the Civil War has seldom, if ever, been the purpose of the public display of that flag. The Confederate flag had very little presence in the public until 1948 and into the 1950s. It attained prominence as a reaction to the civil rights movement and federal actions on behalf of the rights of African Americans. Ms. McCarty, author and historian, said, public memory is shaped by what people learn from their families in school, as well as what they encounter in public spaces like the media, museums, squares, and Capitol grounds. For anyone who is confused, the Confederate battle flag, which I cannot believe, if you had told me that in 2020 I'd be going, yeehaw NASCAR, you go, I'd have looked at you strangely, but no. The Confederate battle flag, which NASCAR and the Marines and many others have finally banned, was never the flag of the Confederacy. Confederate flag didn't even look like that. It was a circle of stars. It looked like the American flag. This flag is divisive and different. And these monuments all belong in Civil War cemeteries. That's just my opinion. I have absolutely no shock, no awe that I've been writing about this since 2015. After 9 African Americans sitting in their church talking to their God were murdered by a white man, and you still couldn't get the flag down, and you still couldn't get the monuments down. And I am horrified and saddened and soul sick over the fact that our country is at this moment having to go through this schism where people feel the need to go out and tear down a statue themselves. What level of frustration must people have reached? What level of invisibility did we have to bestow on our own people for them to make themselves visible by taking down something that represents the people who beat them, sold them, murdered them, and which serves the sole purpose not of perpetuating history. History can be found in books. Believe me, there is plenty of Civil War history that is spoon-fed to our children in schools where we are not learning enough Black history. If you really want to complain about something, pick something other than a flag that didn't actually represent the Confederacy, and the statues that do not represent history. They're not there for history. They're there to put people in what these people think are their place. That's where those statues are, okay? Honor them, hang on to them, put them in the cemeteries for the Civil War. That's my vote. But we need to stop vilifying people because they feel pain. I had a gentleman who I really liked very much. He was a very nice gentleman on many other aspects. But when a protester in Portsmouth was nearly fatally injured by a falling statue, he felt the need to call me up and laugh because he just thought that was funny, because he thought that person was an idiot. And maybe he was having a moment, I thought, but no. He and several other people that I know just couldn't get past the concept that somebody was doing something illegal, breaking a public statue. And I tried to say to him, he said, well, I have a car. I have an old car that's abandoned right in front of my house, like actually right near the front of my property. It's been there for 3 years and I can't get Portsmouth to move it. You don't see me burning it or vandalizing it. And I said, yes, it's a car. It's a car. Now, if that car had one of those shrink wraps on it that was glorifying and in memory of a group of people who had raped and murdered your grandmother prior to setting fire to your house, taking your family into slavery and selling them, if that was what that car was, and you asked and asked and asked for it to be removed, I don't really know that it would still be there. And if you were to have towed that car away, if you paid to get that car towed away, which probably would have been illegal, I don't think a lot of people would have blamed you for that. And he couldn't understand it. He just couldn't understand it. Felt that it was unfair. He did not even think, I've had people tell me that they don't have white privilege because they grew up poor. That's not how that works. I'm here tonight to tell you that's not how that works. Okay? I know you're angry because you feel that you grew up poor. And you think that the word privilege only pertains to your financial status and your comfort level financially. Okay? But in this case, that's not what privilege means. It's not the same thing. Because if I'm at a protest and a friend of mine, particularly my friend Brian, who's watching right now, was standing next to me at the same protest. He's like, oh, Lisa, don't bring me into this. But I just did. I'm sorry, Brian. If we were standing side by side at a protest and we were kneeling down, hands in the air, I have watched multiple videos and live streams where white woman, black woman, side by side, kneeling down, hands in the air. The police literally came up and tapped the white woman on the shoulder. Like they were in church asking her to get up and move over so somebody could come into the aisle. Thanks, Brian. They got her up, and she got up because she thought that the woman, the black woman she was protesting with, would also be tapped on the shoulder and asked to get up politely by the police. But that's not why that happened. That happened because they wanted the white woman out of the way so that they could then, within 2 inches of her eyes, unload an entire canister of pepper spray, or I'm sorry, tear gas into the eyes of the kneeling, unarmed, submitting black woman, then grab her, throw her to the ground, handcuff her, and drag her away while the white woman protested, and they nicely stood her away. Now, the black people in the same situation there, who did the same thing the white woman did, who tried to say, don't take her, she didn't do anything, they were then tear gassed and handcuffed and dragged away. And that's white privilege. Okay? That's white privilege. I can't change the color of my skin any more than Brian can. This is the skin I'm in. Okay? But that doesn't change. The fact that I can't change that, the fact that, yeah, I can't pay my mortgage half the time. Yeah, I have to go to the food bank. Okay, that happens. There, I admit it. I have to go to the food bank sometimes since the divorce. I have to ask people for money. I had to ask my mother to help me pay the mortgage. And there would, in a million years, you could never get me to tell you that I don't have white privilege because I don't have money, because it's not the same thing at all. So we really need to smarten up, okay? We need to stop also the practice that we have of releasing ourselves from caring about an issue when a hashtag is no longer trending. Okay? America forgets. America forgets fast. Look how fast everybody ran out there without masks on. And today, Norfolk and Virginia Beach saw their highest spike in coronavirus numbers. I went to the supermarket. Half the people weren't wearing masks, including the cashiers. Okay? We forget. We forget stuff. We've got fruit fly memories. So these are just 2 of the many stories that I've written in a 30-year career about the injustices, the horrors, and how privilege lets you walk. So tonight, I have drawn a line in the sand. If you're watching this and you think that I am wrong about these things, God bless you. I have tried. If you feel the need to stop watching or stop friending me or whatever it is, feel free. I have tried. But the reality is that I don't condone violence. I don't. I pray that violence is never necessary. I don't condone breaking things. I don't like those things. Would I go and tear down the Confederate monument? I wouldn't. Would I go down and tear down a monument that affected my life in the same way? Probably. And that's the truth. And that's why I completely respect people who have had enough. I respect them. I will pay their bail if I can. I will hold their hands. This is vital. We need to stop doing this to our own people. We have deployed the military. We have shown core racism in this country because we let white protesters of every spectrum of finance take weapons to the steps of our state capitol, spit in the faces of policemen, shove policemen, shout in their faces, this close to their noses. And we've heard to give them leeway because they're good people who are just upset. That's what happened in every state capitol. So I'm just going to go by that rubric, okay? These are just good people who are upset. And you know what? They're not upset because they couldn't get their nails and their hair done. No. They're upset because they can't get the job done, because we're not helping them. Because we can't understand that white privilege is not about how much money we have in the bank or how rough our childhoods were. My childhood sucked. Yes, it did. My father was an alcoholic who beat the hell out of me and my mother, broke my bones, broke my mother's bones, hospitalized me, terrorized me. I still have white privilege. Okay? Get over it. Get over your jealousy. I had some ridiculous human being, and I'm giving this person the privilege of being called a human being by me because I'm at the ragged edge and not thinking that. I had someone get into the comments of my videos on YouTube and TikTok this week, and he actually started posting things like, Black lives splatter, all lives matter, except liberals and yours. Okay? Followed by Trump 2020. Those are the people that are followers right now. This is not about politics. I have voted Republican. I have supported Republicans. I'm wearing red. There. Have at it. Okay? It's not. It's about morality. It's about ethics. It's about values. It's about how we treat our neighbors. It's about understanding and compassion. It's about history. It's about the fact that we don't get Black history in our schools. It's about the fact that I had to learn about Juneteenth and about the Black Wall Street massacre that took place in Tulsa, Oklahoma in 1921 from a social media post by a Black Lives Matter supporter, and not in school. And I promise you, I asked all of my kids, they didn't learn about it in schools either here in Norfolk, Virginia. So it's time for change. We're changing and revamping our entire school system now because of the coronavirus. We need to take some time to put Black history in. We don't need to revise history. We're not asking to revise history. We're asking to be taught history. We're asking to have equal history. We're asking for people to look at history through the lens of something other than the privileged white men who wrote it. And if you have a problem with that, again, just find someplace else to watch tomorrow night. Find someone else to follow. I will not miss you. Okay? Black lives matter. I don't want to hear all lives matter. I don't want to hear it. It's absurd. It's divisive, just like the flag that people want to save is divisive. It's not there for the purpose of history. It is there for the purpose of oppression, just like saying all lives matter. And just as a closer, for the same gentleman who felt he needed to make those horrible, ugly comments and who added today that couldn't understand why George Floyd was getting so much attention because he was a criminal. Black lives matter. Until Black lives matter, no lives matter. And that is because if you are jealous of a man who was brutally murdered by our police, executed on a public street for a crime he never committed, I will start with the fact that someone's criminal record is entirely irrelevant when they are a murder victim. Just like what she was wearing the night she was raped, how much she had to drink, or what she chose to do with her life is also irrelevant to the conversation. Oh, and where Lamia Beard a trans black woman was murdered in the city of Norfolk, a crime that was never solved. A woman who was dead named by the Virginian pilot and the city at that time. It was irrelevant and unnecessary to say that the place in which her body was found was a place where prostitution routinely took place. There was no need for that. There's no need for that. It's irrelevant and it's ignorant. Okay? So if you're white and your problem is that any person of color is getting too much attention for being murdered in this country, you have bigger fish to fry. You have to take a look inward because you, sir or madam, are lost. You're in big trouble. That's not from me. So, I want everyone to know that everybody in this house is with you. That's the way it is. Anybody who doesn't like this, that's how we convert that place. See, we go from here to bye-bye. For everybody else, I love you. I'm with you. I can't begin to process and ever really fully appreciate what you've had to deal with every single day of your lives and what your children have to deal with every single day of their lives. But if there is some way that some word I can say or some place I can stand or something I can do supports a move far away from the positions that have held you where you are, I'm there, and I hope everybody else here is too. I love you. Good night.